In this video, we're going to explore the link between public opinion and public policy. Public opinion is basically asking the question of, what do people want? Now, presumably governments might want to know this. Are people in favor of raising taxes or lowering them? Do they want a certain kind of healthcare policy or another one? Are they in favor of a global conflict or not? This can work at the municipal level too. Do the people favor protecting a wetland or not? Do they want more municipal speed cameras or not? Governments want to know what the people think, and that is called the study of public opinion. Public opinion research is usually conducted by surveys, and these surveys, or opinion polls, capture the general sentiment of a given population. Broad sentiments like approval or disapproval can be measured. These opinions are a snapshot in time, and they're not necessarily predictive of how people might feel in the future. How do we study public opinion? Well, we start with the population. The population is the group of people you want to survey. This could be a city, a province, a state, or an entire country. It's nearly impossible to survey everyone, so what we do is we take a sample. You take a sample from that population and try to determine whether the opinions of that sample are representative of the entire population. Often that sample is random, where people are selected randomly to participate in the survey, but increasingly polling firms and survey researchers are being more purposive with their sample. They're using quota samples to ensure that their sample reflects the different subgroups in society. Once you have a sample, you ask them some questions, and then you do some math. You want to figure out how representative the opinions of that sample are of the entire population. What is the probability that our sample matches the entire population? Then you can start to make some inferences about whether the population approves of something or disapproves of something based on how they answer the survey questions. There are, needless to say, some challenges of this approach. For example, people's preferences. Decades of political science research suggests that people don't really have meaningful preferences, especially about specific issues. Their political feelings and beliefs are often guided by deep partisan attachments that are formed early in life. Another challenge can be the survey mode. People might respond very differently to an online computer-based survey versus a live interviewer on a telephone. For example, they might be disinclined to share unpopular opinions with a live interviewer. That's called the social desirability effect. They'd be more reluctant if they thought that their responses might portray them in a bad light. There's also the flip side of that, expressive responding. Maybe people will be emboldened by an online survey to share controversial opinions, or maybe they might select opinions that are just cheerleading for their preferred party. These can also miss people depending on the survey mode and get non-response bias. The fact that your sample might include a bunch of people that share the same characteristics, and then their voices won't show up in the final product. The questions themselves can also influence the way people answer opinion polls. For example, you could get different responses just based on changing the wording of a question. Or in a list of options, people might be inclined to pick the first option on the list. And so that could bias the responses. All of these things pose some challenges for measuring public opinion. Those challenges can be exacerbated when it comes to public policy. Because, number one, people aren't that sophisticated and they don't often have the in-depth knowledge about specific issues that they are asked about. Moreover, they might be primed to think about a specific issue. If they just happen to see something on the news, or they happen to read about it, or see a video in their social media feed, then that might become more important to them at that time period when it otherwise wouldn't be. And there's also the idea of motivated reasoning. When people hear questions about public policy, really they could interpret that as, is this in favor of my side, or does this make my side look bad? And they might respond accordingly. They might give a motivated response. Some ways that we can try and approach polling about public policy given these limitations. One approach is just to ask about issue priority. Give people a list of options and ask them to choose a top 3. That way we get a feel for which collection of issues might be more important than others. We can at least compare what issues do not get selected and which ones are selected more often. And this is one from Abacus data that highlights some popular responses. Another option is to give them forced choice. They might not understand all the options that are available in terms of one policy area, so you can just give them a choice of 3 or 4 options. Say, which of these 4 would you be inclined to prefer? Really, the most useful application of public opinion for public policy is to track trends over time. That way you can get a feel for how the public is responding based on changes in society or the economy or the prevailing political issues. Now, do governments actually pay attention to this? Are governments concerned, and do they react to changes in public opinion? Well, research seems to suggest that yes, public policy generally does follow public opinion. When public opinion changes, government policy tends to go along with it, not always immediately. Now, this is most likely to happen when public opinion is salient, when it's clear what people want, and coherent, when legislators and members of the government can discern the correct options, or at least the options that people prefer. So if there's an issue that's important and there are clear options that the government could pursue. Now, when issues are less important to voters, interest groups and lobby groups can be very effective in swaying government policy. So there is some connection between public opinion and public policy. Just to recap, when we think about public opinion, it is a general sentiment, a snapshot of a population at a given point in time. When it comes to policy, it is challenging to get accurate responses from people because they're not that sophisticated. They don't have detailed public policy knowledge and, of course, motivated reasoning. They might be expressively responding to make their side look good rather than giving accurate responses to the question. Now, governments, for their part, are interested in this. Generally, they are responsive to changes in public policy. So governments, for their part, do want to know what the public thinks.